Good morning. Are you or someone you know in need of some mental spring cleaning? I know I am. If we haven't met, I'm Kat Trulinos with Ta-Da by Kat, Next Level Staging and Design, where we share with you tips and tricks and concepts to live intentional and live by design. And I'm excited about today's episode because it's something that I've worked on in my inner works for decades. And it's constantly something that I need to pay attention to and to fine tune. We talked about feng shui and feng shuiing your home last week. And this seemed like a perfect segue into our interior headspaces. So living by design, by concept, has morphed into from, designing, clearing, selling, living in our interior home spaces to doing all the same to our interior headspaces, because that's where it all starts. That's where it can actually, if we stay stuck in the mind, can cause us some anguish and uneasiness, if that's a word, etc. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're streaming on 7 sites, and you may be listening to this on Spotify. We also have the audio. So if we get into an exercise such as breathing, don't close your eyes while you're driving. That would not be a good thing. Without further ado, in a second here, I don't see him yet. I'm going to bring in my co-host, husband, business partner, confidant, etc. Jeff, are you ready? I don't see you. Okay. There we go. There he is. Welcome. Let's get
Good morning, everyone.
Side by side. Good morning, Jeff.
Yeah, little technical difficulty.
Yeah, that's okay.
Too many things streaming at the same time.
Yep. Jeff works behind the scenes and has to go multiple places in our home office here to make sure everything is connected and works. And I so appreciate you, my big bear, for everything that you do for helping to up-level Kat's home chat. So welcome, darling. So
everyone,
let's just dive in to, I've got a couple slides here. I think you'll find them amusing, and a couple of exercises if you do want to participate. You're more than welcome to. I would encourage you. And as we talk about some ideas, think about trying one or two or a couple to see what resonates with you, what sits with you. Thoughts do become things. Wayne Dyer is the one that comes to my mind. I'm sure he's not the first thought thinker or thought leader that came up with that term, but thoughts do become things. And if you're like me, you find yourself juggling too many thoughts. And thoughts can keep you from sleeping. They can keep you from focusing, of course, from being productive, etc. So the best way described, and I believe the first time I heard this was in a book. I don't remember which book it was of Wayne Dyer's, but it was on the line of meditation. And some people get, oh, meditation, I don't meditate. Well, we meditate, we even self-hypnotize many times throughout the day, just probably not consciously. And most of today's talk is going to be about raising the level of consciousness so that we can design our internal spaces. So the description that just resonated with me with Wayne Dyer was that thoughts that, let me get this right. When we notice the space between thoughts, so the space between thoughts, whether you're not meditating or you're meditating, is really the space that you're looking for and will help prevent you from overthinking, whether you're trying to meditate, which if you're like myself and many people, you've tried meditating, you go, I can't get the thoughts out of my mind. I can't still that mind chatter, to be able to still myself, to not have those thoughts. And I know many of us experience that with sleeping as well. Magnesium is my best friend for that. If you haven't tried magnesium for sleeping, do. There are 7 different kinds of magnesium, so you want to make sure you get the right one. Message me if you want further information on that. But stilling the mind, and with practice, that gap will become larger. In the beginning, the thoughts are racing. Where does that come from? It comes from a lot of stuff, having too much to do, having, juggling so many plates and processes. And we're going to go through, if you can see up on the screen here, the number one thing that you can do, and it's free of charge and you don't need anything or equipment to do it, is to breathe. So if you're meditating, what I have found, and some may know about chanting, it's a form of chanting. This actually was integrated from Wayne Dyer in the same book that I read of his, excuse me, and that is saying ah, ah. So if you're breathing in and breathing out, ah, and repeating that, ah has the same vowel sound as God, whatever God means to you. And that mantra sound, vocal vibration, keeps us from a thought. You can't experience the motion of ah and have a thought, negative or positive, at the same time. So 4-4-4-4 you see up there. You may have heard me talk about 4 squared breathing, or 4-4-4-4. I'm going to briefly give you a demonstration of what that looks like. And then Jeff, let's you and I have a dialogue before we go to number 2. So Jeff, will you go ahead with me on this? And so what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in through the nose. And then, like you're pursing on a straw, breathe out. So it's 4 counts in and 4 counts out, another 4 count. So that's 8 counts out, and then in again, 4 counts. And actually, I got that wrong. So I'm trying to talk and do it. So it's 4 in, 4 more in, 4 out, 4 more out, 4 in, 4 more in, 4 out, 4 more out. Will you demonstrate that, Jeff, while I count? So it's 4 in, 2, 3, 4, another 1, 2, 3, 4, getting into the diaphragmatic. And then it's exhale like a straw, 2, 3, 4, and push it all the way out. Feel the muscles of the abdomen contract.
Whoa, I'm seeing glitters.
So that's 4 squared, or 4-4-4 breathing. And I want to tell you guys, if you have had anxiety, if you've been a victim of overthinking, which I don't know who has not, you can use this any time. I use it in the car quite often. Jeff has heard me say that. And it keeps me from being an angry driver, judging and being frustrated, etc. But it is magic. It is magic. I do it multiple times a day. That's what's necessary for me. And I feel so much better when I do it, is just to breathe and practice it. Try it. If you don't try anything else, try this one, because it is magic, and it's breath. I think there's something in the Bible that, God breathed life into us. It's God. You can put whatever vision you want to it. Your bringing in God, love, and light into those first 8, and you're giving it back. Love and light and God. And when I create customize audios for clients through my LBD Living by Design platform, we use that description, and I think it fits anything, whatever and whoever you call God, love, and light. It's all love and light, no matter who your source, God, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, whoever. Would you agree with that, Jeff?
Yes, absolutely.
So before we go into number 2, negative thoughts and how we can curtail those, which, segues into the breathing, but I have some other thoughts on that. Any thoughts on the breathing technique, Jeff? And have you used it? I know you have used it as well.
Yes, I used breathing techniques, especially when I was going through my bout with anemia. I needed to promote more blood flow, more oxygen, to get into my system. So I realized that what was going on is I would get shortness of breath really quick because there was not enough in my blood of, I believe, white blood cells. So by breathing exercises, it allowed me to oxygenate my blood in my hemoglobin and cells count and all that, and it helped me tremendously. But I had to be conscious of it to focus to
Yes.
be able to do this, because it's very easily to sit there and just be complacent and not do these things, because it's just, you think, well, I breathe normally, so why do I need to be so-called paying attention,
Conscious about your breathing? Yes.
Right.
And I want to bring up a point on that, Jeff, because that's so important what you bring up, that you had to be intentional on that breathing. And I've mentioned this before in other episodes, that most of us, and when I first discovered this decades ago, I realized that I was shallow breathing. And I believe that the majority of us do shallow breathe. And when you raise your level of consciousness to be aware of your inner body, to go, am I, and especially when we get tense or anxious or nervous, or we're going to be late, or the kids aren't getting ready for school, they're not doing the right, whatever, life, it is the natural reaction to shallow breathe. And what happens if you keep doing that without oxygenating your system? You're creating a platform for dis-ease, for breakdown, because we need, of all things, water and oxygen. Water and oxygen.
Yes.
That'll be another episode on water. Our bodies are 75% water. But oxygen, in fact, it makes me, excuse me while I take some deep breaths right now, because, even in a positive, anxious state, we can lose that consciousness of doing deep diaphragmatic breathing. And when I first studied yoga, probably 4 decades ago, that's probably when I first heard the term diaphragmatic breathing. This 4-4-4 breathing, I believe there's a gentleman that kind of coined it, but there's been several people, and it also ties in with yogic, and part of that is using the entire core. That's why it's so important to do the 8 count exhale and actually feel the constriction of the abdominal muscles. And the nice side effect of this, ladies and guys, is that you're giving yourself an abdominal workout at the same time while you're sitting driving, or sitting at your desk, or even sitting on the sofa. So many benefits. But thank you for that, Jeff, because intentional. And I want to touch on the focus of intentional to your specific dis-ease, or whatever's going on in your body. For Jeff, it was a bout of anemia. And so he focused on, increasing the blood cell, the red blood cells, all the things that biologically, anatomically need to happen for him to heal. So he's envisioning, and the body has it has nothing to do but to do what we tell it. And it doesn't know the difference whether it's real or not real. And this is why suggestions, visions, intentional thoughts are so powerful, guys, because the body is going to listen. Whether you say, "Oh God, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm unhealthy," and all those things, the body will believe that and help you make it so. Conversely, and then I'm giving you a little example with my trainer, who I'm seeing later today at noon. I always try to ask him, if I forget, what particular muscle is this engaging or helping? Because putting that vision in my mind then helps me to intentionally envision the cells, the muscles, the blood flow to improve that particular muscle. And I will tell you, there's studies out there that support that, where they've done it with vision and without vision, and the results are phenomenal. Again, it's just mind-blowing, the power of our mind and our intentional thoughts. So thanks for sharing that as well, Jeff. Did you want to add anything to that before we go on to number 2?
Well, the mental spring cleaning about the mindset and the mental.
Yes.
I just wanted to touch in regards to what you were saying. Having your mind participating in the healing of the body. I listened to a recent interview on a very esoteric individual that was in the government system, that was in the military. And believe it or not, in deep programs, they do a lot of things that's mental, because what he has exposed is what they thought was super soldier treatments or something of that nature. It was actually placebo. Everything else that they were able to manipulate their reality and their bodies came from their mind.
Their mind. The power of the mind. We could do like a whole episode on that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Jeff. So I'm going to bring in my next slide that I have, or graphic. I was blown away when I Googled it last night to find it, because I ripped this out of a newspaper probably 3 decades ago. Why? Because I, at that time, considered myself a compulsive overthinker. And at that time, it was real big. I think it's kind of lost its glamour because of a lot of health issues, but stomach stapling was really big, right? So you staple the stomach so that you eat half as much. So let me bring this to the stage.
Oh.
This is Professor Lundquist in a seminar on compulsive thinkers, illustrates his brain stapling technique. Now, if it was just so easy, right, to do that, to just staple off our brain and only think half as much, right? That wouldn't that be lovely?
Yeah.
But of course, we can't do that. We absolutely can't do that. But mental spring cleaning of our mind, it doesn't mean to get rid of thoughts, but there's a couple of things that we can do besides the breathing. So besides the breathing, okay, which it's so simple and it's so accessible, I encourage you to do that. Absolutely. That's number 1. Number 2, write it down. Now, I've used this for decades. I come from corporate America, so we were, organizing in a lot of moving parts and pieces, and it was my way of keeping things out of my mind. And whether you work in corporate America, you have a small business, you run a home, you can just overload the hard drive by keeping it all in there. What happens is you write it down and put it on paper, and it removes it out of the hard drive and you can access it. Now, tandem to that, because I'll tell you, the mistake that I made when I studied time management in corporate America was, okay, they said you need to prioritize what is essential. Well, everything was an A for me. Well, that can't be. That's how you overthink and, under focus. Everything can't be an A. Everything can't be an essential. So it helped me to think of, okay, out of these items I have listed, if I didn't get it done by today, would that be critical? That's an A. If it's not, then it's a B, or it goes on to the next day. This, guys, I can tell you, will just immensely help free up the overthinking and the overloading your mental hard drive with just what I call too mucking fudge. It's just too mucking fudge stuff up in there. Would you agree, Jeff? I know that you utilize that as well, writing down your ideas, your tasks, so that your head isn't filled with so much stuff.
Yeah. I'll tell you, writing down allows you to reflect in a different mental process than it is just think it and keep it. So that, to me, just that process alone, to analytically look at what you wrote down and then maybe, to add to it, to expand from it, so that to me.
Yes, and be flexible. That's time management, more into time management. But this brain dump is the key to uncluttering, and spring cleaning your mind. Just get it down. And then with that, be flexible. Don't be so hard on yourself, and if you take and say, okay, well, here's the 3 things that are critical, and then you do more, or you cross more things off your list, then that's great. Part of overthinking can be, and this gets into kind of a psychodynamics, but that we're not going to cover today, but is tending to be a perfectionist. Not making a decision. And guilty here. I've overcome that, and it comes with letting go. And being in the power of now. So a lot of reading that I've been doing and research for this actually segment is from Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. I realized I have 2 copies because one had nothing. One has just everything marked up on it. But if you have not read or heard on YouTube, Eckhart Tolle, he's from Germany, and The Power of Now, do yourself a favor. It really ties into being in the present moment. And if we're frustrated, anxious, shallow breathing, thinking we're not good enough, doing too much, having too many thoughts in our brain, a big part of that is because we're thinking about the future, or we're ruminating about the past and over masticating situations. Negative, often negative. Some people can be addicted to negative thinking. If you find yourself addicted to, because the pain body likes that, it feeds it, that negativity. Take those negative thoughts. The first step is being aware of them. Take those negative thoughts. Let's say you feel, oh, what's the point? Oh, why should I try? I'll never make it happen anyway. Or I'm to this and I'm to that. I can't do that. There's an individual that Eckhart talks about, which I'm going to research or him, Byron Katie. Katie is a girl's last name, or a girl's first name, so I thought it was a girl, but Byron Katie. And what he says is, when those negative thoughts come about, especially those negative narratives about yourself, which really comes from the feeling of I'm not enough. And we're not going to get into this today, but that can be inputted from usually childhood, past situations where you believe that, start to believe that. What you want to do is ask yourself the question, let's say, why try? I'm not going to succeed anyway. Ask yourself, is it true? More than likely, you have no evidence to support that that is true. So, turn that around. Well, what if? What if I did do that, whatever that thing is? What's the worst that could happen? What's the best that could happen? Explore that, because you're living a limited life if you're telling yourself negative narratives and you're a negative Nelly and you're addicted to negative thinking. Again, it takes practice like anything else, but the tools that we're talking about today, breathing, finding space between the thoughts, finding quiet time. It doesn't have to be meditation. It can be just quiet time. A couple other things that you can do is go out in nature. Jeff and I have recently, with this gorgeous California-like Texas weather, have been taking walks. And it's not just for our physical, it's for our whole, mental, etc., clarity. Because, nature, going outside, breathing the fresh air, seeing the trees, the nature, the animals, it's the closest we can get to God on this earth plane, I feel. And many people would agree that they feel more connected to source when they're outside in nature. Would you agree with that, Jeff?
I 100% agree with that. And if I may, let me add this too. Mental cleaning and mental dump and mental awareness clearing, all these things are all related to each other. And
Yeah.
what you will find that if you continue to ignore the clutter, you tend to lean on your so-called vices, habits like drinking,
Ah,
smoking, and things so forth, because
thank
what
you.
you're trying to do is numb this nagging negative reason of for whatever. And I'll share something really quick with you that I learned from Making Love Works workshop. Barbara DeAngelis ran this back in the 80s and the 90s, and it was fantastic workshop. And one of the things that we learned about mental cleaning was wrapping up loose ends, close the chapters, find resolutions. Like, for instance, I had a set of photos from this couple that had done special graphics for t-shirts and so forth. And they says, hey, I really wanted these pictures back, so I'm going to loan them out to you. And like, typical me, I have it. And then, next, 6 months go by, 8 months go by and whatnot. But once I understood the mental cleaning, I went through a process where I called people I needed to talk to. I returned those photos and wrote an apologetic letter, did all the things that was cluttering me from being clear. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Once that was gone and it was out of my system, I felt liberated. Like a ball and chain was removed from me. Now I can move forward, be loving, be clear, and so forth, and not worry about, oh, do I owe somebody something? Or should I have done something? Is there stuff that I've promised that I still have not delivered?
Sure, sure. And you have to be careful on that. Jeff's not talking about being a people pleaser or, comparing yourself to others, things like
No.
that. He's talking about integrity and, absolutely. You want to be able to move forward. You don't want something dragging on you that's been nagging you,
Sure.
that that you need to take action to do.
It's very
So
easy for me. Let's say this, I needed to talk to someone that I'm constantly dreading because maybe there's friction, maybe there's tension. I'll light up a cigarette. It'd be better because it'll stop that angst. It will stop that feeling for the momentary, of course, right?
yes,
And next you know, you're having a second cigarette, third cigarette, whatever it may be. That became the catalyst of driving a bad habit. And yet you
yes.
don't really understand psychologically why. You think everything's a physical addiction. It's really not. You know, everybody who I've had friends, including myself, who smoked cigarettes, the ones that could quit successfully, I'm going to tell you the key component was that we did not believe that we were addicted to any of this. We have a choice that we could walk away from it anytime. And it's because that conviction, and because we have the facility opened in our mental, where it wasn't being stop gated, it wasn't being, guilted into something else that, oh, well, let me just cover the pain with this pleasurable habit for the next 2 minutes. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of folks are not really understanding, why mental cleaning, especially every year during the springtime, doing the spring cleaning, that you do the same thing for yourself, you know because if you carry this, just think about the burden you've been carrying since you were a kid. If you never sat there and really look at yourself, what you're not letting go, you can carry that thing on for decades and never understood why you cannot achieve your goals and success, because you have something stopping you. You never identified it. So that was one of my key takeaways in regards to Making Love Work workshop, was to understand myself, be good to myself by allowing myself to feel and let go some of these feelings or some of these responsibilities. Like I said, if I had to make a call, I'm dreading this call, and finally, oh, well, let me get it over with. And by the time you're done with it, you're like, thank goodness this wasn't anywhere near as bad as I thought it would be.
Absolutely. Procrastination can be stifling, and it does add to mental and emotional clutter.
Yes.
One of the tips that I've read is, do what you dread the most first. Get that out of the way, because more than likely, no different than that, well, what's the point? Why try? Or, oh, I don't want to do that, is, well, what will happen if I do it? Well, I did it and it's out of the way. It's done. And then you feel so accomplished.
That's right.
So another point I want to bring up to our audience is that you can do less. You really can do less. I know my sign off for 2024 is to love more, give more, and be more. Not do more, be more.
Be more.
You can be more by doing less. And along that lines, I want to bring up the last tip on that, and that is to go slower. It seems kind of weird, I know, but walking and talking and working and driving slower can really make a big difference. It's kind of like you're saying, I'm not willing to rush through life, no matter what artificial time, because time is artificial, demands on putting me. I want to take it at my pace. And as a result, your mind is going to be less hurried. I remember so poignantly, this is several decades ago, and I was disabled from a severe back injury, and I was off work for over a year. And I remember the first couple of months, like rushing around, like, oh, I got to get here, I got to go to the grocery store. And I thought one day, like this light bulb moment, like, why am I rushing around? Why am I feeling so anxious? I don't have to be here at a certain time. I don't have to, meet this deadline. Now, many of you still do have to be somewhere and meet a deadline, et cetera. But I can tell you that mental construct of relaxing into what is and being in the moment of the isness of what is will free your mind exponentially. And you know what? You will still get there on time. You will still get it done. You will still cross it off your list, but without the anxiousness, without the anxiety. And it's magical and miraculous how the universe will provide synchronicities and miracles to where, the road frees up, someone cancels an appointment. I've seen this time and time and time again in my life, where when I relax into the isness of the moment, that miracles happen. The universe will 10x circumstances that I never could have orchestrated. It's miraculous. I can't tell you any more than that. It is absolutely Miraculous. So I think that is it for now. I'm going to close with actually a poem that I wrote. It's going to be in my book of poetry coming up in the next year or so. And it's a little bit on this line, and it involves the word wabi-sabi. My son thought it wasn't a word. I had to correct him that it was a word. And it's one of my favorite words. It's a Japanese word. So I'm going to read you this poem and then end with a little graphic from a movie that I think you'll find amusing, Jeff. So it goes like this. In the world of design, where perfection's adored, there lies a concept not to be ignored. Wabi-sabi, it's called. Imperfect, yet so fine. In flaws and imperfections, its virtues entwine within our homes and our spaces where chaos may brew. Wabi-sabi seems to whisper, see the beauty in the askew? With cracks on the walls and floors worn with time, it's in these imperfections our hearts truly chime. Living by design in mind and in space, wabi-sabi reminds us of a different embrace. For in our flaws, our quirks, our scars, lies the essence of who we truly are. In headspaces cluttered with worries and fear, wabi-sabi teaches imperfect is dear. For in our doubts, our struggles, our strife, we find our perfect beauty in the rhythm of life. So let's raise a toast to imperfections embraced. In its asymmetry, we find our true grace. For in our flaws, our scars, the cracks, whether old or new, lies the wabi-sabi perfection of me and of you. Perfectly imperfect.
Very good. Very good.
So I knew you would enjoy this, Jeff. Neo in The Matrix.
Yes.
Yep. Right. Love this picture. Thank you. This is from the movie The Matrix. Our granddaughter loves all of them. I think she's seen all of them. And I'm going to leave with this quote. I guess I can't get two slides up at one time. Okay. So this is a quote from Morpheus. I'm trying to free your mind, Neo, but I can only show you the door. You're the one who has to walk through it.
That's right.
Isn't that true?
Yes.
It really is.
Yep.
It really is. And I hope whoever's listening now or in the future takes a nugget away. I encourage you to try one or two or more of the tips and tricks that we've shared with you from our own experience. And again, we wish you a wonderful weekend, that you will love more, give more, be more. Don't need to do more. Don't need to think more. Just be more and live in the spaces between thoughts. And we will see you next week with an exciting guest. Can't tell you who it is right now, but tune in next week and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Bye, Jeff.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Kat.